Hey, this is Josh Hewitt, the host of the Straight to the Bar Gym Chats. This is Gym Chat number 252. Welcome back. Last week we had a little hiatus because I was moving, and if we get a chance at the end of this chat, maybe I'll show you all a quick glimpse of my gym because I am on a laptop today. Still connecting. Today I am happy to have a guest with us that I guess we're our first official online meeting. Another Toronto colleague of mine, Omar Atlas, and he is the owner of Alpha Aesthetics, and today we're going to be talking about how aesthetics and strength training relates to personal development for men in the 21st century. So this is an interesting topic because there is a little bit of a stereotype on, sort of derogatory negative stereotype on muscle heads and people that work out don't have anything else going on in their life. That sort of stereotype, a negative perception of people that are obsessed or focused on strength training. And Omar is going to blast that myth out of the water and talk about why strength training is actually very healthy and important for men. So before we get into that, Omar, would you mind just giving a little bit of an introduction for yourself, your business, how you got into this game, and what you're all about?
Yeah, thanks for handing it over to me. I actually started lifting weights just like every other teenage boy. When I first started out, it was to get girls to pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And so I've been lifting weights for probably about, I'd say, 8 to 10 years now. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, learned a lot. And about, let's say, a couple years ago, I decided that the career path that I'd chosen for myself wasn't the right one, and I wanted to start helping guys out with their own fitness and their own aesthetics because I'd spent so much time doing it myself. So my background specifically is in psychology, educational background. So about 6 months ago, I dropped out of my PhD program to start this Alpha Aesthetics fitness business and start coaching men to deal with their fitness problems, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And then along the way, I'm assuming you found out that there was more to it than just getting guys in shape. This had a lot more of a carryover into all elements of life for guys, especially.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why I started it was because a lot of fitness stuff that I've seen, it's changing lately, but past few years it was all about, guys with a dumbbell telling everybody to sleep properly and like eat your vegetables, like very, like boring shit. If I could, can I swear on here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's not something that the average guy can relate to. Average guy just wants to look good naked and still have a good life, whether that means going out and hanging out with your friends, getting drunk on the weekend, or even if you have like a family and stuff, you still want to be able to have a social life, basically, have a good life. And the body is like a vehicle to enjoy that life as opposed to running your entire life around it.
Absolutely.
And so to answer your question about the how it relates to the rest of your life, I think that in recent years there's been a movement basically for people to, especially men, to examine what their role is in society. And I think strength training has a lot to offer to guys, because I think I first heard Elliot Halsey actually say it really well. He said that girls become women basically because of biology. They have their first period and you're like, okay, you're a woman, you can have kids now. Whereas guys, we don't really have like a biological set point where we go from boys to men. And we basically used to have rites of passage where that gave you, if you pass this rite of passage, that gave you the status of being a man. But we don't really have any official rites of passage anymore. And I think strength training can maybe offer a way for guys to reclaim a bit of their identity.
Absolutely. No, I'd agree. Same way martial arts did in some cultures, and a lot of cultures had combat training and some form of battle as a rite of passage. But often it's been physical, like feats of strength or feats of physical feats, challenges that have been rites of passage. So absolutely, strength training can play an important role in that. Before we get any further into this, what does Alpha Aesthetics mean to you? You basically described what you do, how you're working with, and I'm sure your background in psychology plays a huge role well as your strength training background. But like, how do you identify with alpha aesthetics?
Yeah, so I picked that name because it sounds really cool, to be honest. That's why I picked it. Like, and everybody I talk to that I tell that's my company, they're like, okay, I wish I had that name.
Yeah.
So it basically combines this idea of being the alpha, and it's pretty hard, I think, to define what alpha is because every guy thinks he's an alpha, and you try to define it in a certain way, and
Yeah.
like
Alpha is
scientists,
like the hashtag under everybody's picture.
yeah, so like scientists will say, oh, thinking guys are alpha, physical guys are brutes, and then physical guys will say, okay, look at these neck beards, what do they know about being alpha? So I think alpha is one of those things that's hard to define, but basically you know what it is when you see it. I'll leave it as that. And then the aesthetics part is the looking good part, because I think, like I said earlier, 99% of guys get into fitness lifting weights because they just want to look good without clothes on.
Yes.
And we tend to get distracted by the other things because there's a lot of fitness subcultures online now, especially. So, for example, some guys might get into powerlifting, where the focus is not as much on looking good. It's more about lifting lots of heavy weight, which is fine. I did that for a while too.
Yeah,
but then I remembered that, okay, originally I got into this to look good.
Yes.
And eventually I strayed away from that, and I've come back to a more bodybuilding focus. And I think aesthetics just sounds cool because bodybuilding, it still has like this
that's a stigma,
negative stigma to it, right? Like it's really extreme or hardcore. Well, I don't think it is, but people still associate like this cheesy Arnold stuff to it from the 80s.
Yeah.
So.
Or they think you have to shave and wax and tan and oil yourself to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So not competing in it. You don't. It's about feeling. It's about aesthetics, is what it is. It's about your physique, not about bikinis.
Yeah. For the record, I find nothing wrong with bodybuilding. I think it's awesome. But it was more from a marketing standpoint, and it just goes with alpha. It goes well together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. No, I totally agree. So getting onto the topic that we were just about to touch on, then you're saying that men are trying to find their role in society, and now it's been a little bit hard to do this because things have really changed over the last few decades. And I think that there's been, let me know if you agree with me, that since the whole feminist movement, which definitely had a reason for that because roles were pretty messed up for them as well. But I think the pendulum, sometimes swings a little bit far in one direction before it corrects itself. Would you say that there was like sort of a demasculinizing or a feminization of men over the last couple of decades, which is sort of starting to come back around?
I'm a relatively young. I'm only 26, so I can only speak from my experiences, and I think to a certain degree you're right that the pendulum did swing too far the other direction, because a lot of guys, their masculinity has been stifled, basically. For example, in classrooms, a lot of guys naturally like to speak up or interrupt the discussion to, say, offer an answer. But now they're told that they need to basically quiet down and go along with the rest of the group, which some people say is more of a naturally feminine style of participating in class. So you can debate whether that's true or not, but there's other trends. For example, again, bringing it back to education, because that's most of my experience in my life. For example, sports. Now you get medals just for participating, there's even been stories of teams being penalized because they beat the other team too severely. You're too good, so we're going to penalize you, right? Like, I think that's absurd. Like, that's definitely taking the pendulum to the wrong direction.
At your age, you might not remember when things were very different, but they were.
So I think so, and I mean, a guy like me, I've always naturally been very competitive. There's been a drive inside of me, and sometimes I feel like maybe I'm a little too in people's faces just because of the way I am. Mm-hmm. I think that has a lot to do with feminization of our culture. I don't think that's a problem, to be honest. Personally, I'm fine with it, but I think people do need to recognize what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's until it's sort of pointed out to you, a lot of people don't realize it.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of guys are also starting to feel uncomfortable with maybe they don't know exactly why, but they're feeling stifled, or they don't have an outlet for, being a man it used to be. I was reading an article that sort of ties into this. I wish I could find it. I'm going to send it to you though after chat when I get myself all set up on my. I was talking about going out for beer and bro nights. It's like that. It's a healthy part of a male culture to go out, every now and then. It doesn't need to be drinking, but they use that as an example for a few beers with your buddies, and to either compete in some sort of sport, or get into a fight, or get drunk and actually use beer and brawling. But it was funny. It was just, and they actually showed like scientific research how when people go out, and guys get together for these bro nights, they have high testosterone levels. They're less depression. They perform better at work. All these different things. So
okay, no way. That's I'd like to see that.
I'll send it to you. It'll tie exactly in with your website and your Facebook. It'd be an awesome article. Okay. And I think it was a legitimate study done. Quite funny how they presented it. Yeah,
I think that's exactly that's a very good point. I think a lot of basically there's a really good need for guys to learn how to socialize with other guys. I think that's very much a missing element. Especially, I remember when I first started working out. I had just recently moved to a new state, new school, and before that I had tried several times to actually get into shape. Started bodybuilding, and it had never worked. But I was recently reflecting on reasons why I was able to make it stick this time. That's because I met basically one of my best friends at the gym one day. And eventually it became me and him challenging each other back and forth, and other guys started joining us, and it became an addicting game where basically each of us tried to outdo each other. So that social aspect of the group, like trying to outbro your bro, I think that's a really very powerful motivating force that a lot of guys are missing in their life.
Yeah, and like you're saying, even in school and in sport and education, competition is almost frowned upon in some ways. I even see on Instagram, and I get it. It's like I don't care if I beat anyone. I want us all to make it. Great. No, that's very good. As a team, let's support each other in success. But competition is healthy. You need, and it's normal for some people to be more successful than others. I think that's fine. If you put into it the effort and you believe in yourself and you have that drive, you're going to probably do better than someone else, and that should be rewarded and encouraged for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I also, like you said, that what your focus is, at least, is aesthetics, and I agree with you that most guys would get into this to look good and to get laid. And I think that getting into strength, I think there's still a role for how much weight can I move as a show of machismo and whatnot. But I just posted something on that recently. I did it a couple times because I got such feedback on it. I don't know if you saw that when I was like, hey, being strong is awesome, but really no one gives a shit how much you can lift if you look like shit, right?
I saw that.
Let's look good and be strong, but really same thing you were talking about. I'm getting back. I'm starting to realize I just want to look. I want to look better. I want to look good. And I want to put on some muscle, stay lean. Have a good physique. If I can't lift as much weight, who cares? And boy, I got flamed because I've been in the powerlifting background too. And people are like, that's the gayest thing I ever heard. And oh man, it's how much you lift. And all the powerlifter strength athletes are getting on there. And then some people are like, good for you. But really, that's a lot of charge around that. But it's interesting that you mentioned that.
Isn't it funny how angry people get about that kind of stuff?
Oh, real issue.
Everybody's identity is so wrapped into it. Like if it's completely strength versus completely aesthetics. And I think both of those work together very well. Like if you get strong, chances are you're gonna end up looking really good. It's when you go to the extreme where you're just focusing on like very heavy movements all the time and no quote unquote bodybuilding type stuff.
Yeah.
That's where you start to lose out. But both can be done, absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and it's funny how the aesthetics crew and the strength crew sort of at each other, but when really You know, it's like, oh, I hate it. Bill's trying to get big arms. You give it. I only care how much I squat. I hate you guys. Like,
Yeah.
and then, but I mean, it's usually, I don't think it's the other way around. I think it's the strength guys usually have a hate on for the guys who are only physique. The other way around, physique guys don't really care. From my experience, I don't know.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I do think one of my points around that was, if your goal is like what you're talking about, is to look good, I do think there is a place in the gym for holding back a little bit, letting putting your ego aside as far as how much weight you can move, because there is a lot of one-upmanship on, like, 1 rep, 2 rep, partial range, really crappy form max with your buddy doing all the work for you. Just so you could say, put that weight on the bar. People aren't going to grow from that kind of training. So when it comes to that, and then you got to say, okay, listen, then you just say, I don't care how much weight I'm moving. Let's just get big and swole.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So let's get into the next aspect of it. Well, first of all, tying into the thing about our whole society and how things have maybe there's been a little bit of feminization of men over the years, and that's coming back a little bit now. Talk about how we can support that, and also, do you think there's a role with political correctness, because there's been back and forth around, there's certain things that I would just see as a normal way for a man to behave. Yeah. Some people think is inappropriate because it's too blunt, or it's not politically correct. Yeah. And I think this political correctness, although as things are lightening up a little bit now, but I think that's been also really made it confusing for guys to know, like, well, what am I supposed to do or act or say? Like, I can't be myself, but they want you to be yourself. Don't be fake. And so it makes it really frustrating. How would you? What's your opinion on that? Like, the whole idea of political correctness, and how does that make it? How does it relate to how guys are finding their role in society?
Political correctness, you're absolutely right. It makes things more confusing. I'm not sure I have a good answer to that, because it's basically here to stay. I don't see it going away anytime soon. My best advice is basically, that's the way society expects you to behave now, and to a certain extent you're going to have to behave that way. Times to be politically incorrect are when you're around your bros and you can trust people. Like, say you have opinions that aren't quote-unquote mainstream, might be seen as politically incorrect by other people. Yeah. Just use common sense. Like, don't say that kind of crap around people that you probably think are going to be offended by what you're saying. Because I used to be one of these guys where, I don't really give a shit about whatever anybody thinks. I'll say what I want. Yeah. Okay. It's not worth the hassle. That's the way things are. Even if you don't agree with it, I hate to say it, go along with it. It's not going to change anytime in our lifetime, I think, unless something crazy happens.
Or you just get your own alpha aesthetics commune and just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about buying an island, so anybody who wants to be politically incorrect, totally fine with me.
Well, if Team Barbarian is invited, we'd fit right in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's the same idea. You're talking about training with other bros, and that's improves gains and improves adherence to the program, and it keeps you dedicated. That's the same idea when I started Team Barbarian. It's just a bunch of guys training in my garage, and that started. One person told another person. We had like a huge crew coming out on the weekends, flipping tires, and you're pressing logs and lifting stones and very manly things and busting, getting strong.
Very manly things.
And it was awesome, man. You get the best workouts, and no one would back down.
And it's fun as hell.
Yeah, it was fun. Exactly, it was super fun. Everyone's like, sometimes. I love working out, but I think everyone, no matter how much you love it, there's those days where you're like, yeah, man, I don't know if I want to go to the gym. But when you're looking forward to everyone's going to be there, you just forget about that. It's like a party, but you're getting swole at the same time.
Exactly, and especially if you have your friends around, you're going to pick yourself up. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Or they will pick you up whether you like it or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we got a pretty clear idea of what aesthetics is, and we got an idea of the how strength training relates to, and I guess the whole idea of camaraderie around that. Any specific suggestions around that, like, or are there any specific examples of how strength training can help promote personal development or help improve guys? Let's get more into some specifics on this.
Sure. Before I delve into that, I actually had thought of one resource that guys can check out
Okay.
if they're interested more learning about like what it means to be a man in our society, learning more about building your crew. There's this writer that I came across about a year and a half ago that was very useful to me in understanding a lot about what's going on, and he shaped a lot of my thinking on this. It's Jack Donovan, and he wrote a book called The Way of Men. So
Okay.
I would encourage your male, even female readers to check it out. It's a really good book. And he talks about basically what it means to be a man in terms of our evolutionary history. And if you think about it that way, for most of our history, basically guys, there was brotherhoods of gangs basically, and what it meant to be a man in in that situation where you're basically defending your tribe against other tribes.
Mhm.
That's one view of masculinity, and that's not like it's not to say that we need to bring it back and fit it into our current society, but I think there needs to be how should I
Some
say,
sort of outlet for that.
some sort of outlet for that, and I think the gym is one way to do it. So Jack Donovan actually, he also has a blog. He wrote a post called "Building Your Crew," something like that. Like you can go to his blog and check it out. One of the things that he talks about is building a crew to get in shape, strength training. So I encourage guys to go to his blog, Jack Donovan's blog. I'm forgetting what it's called, but just search Google Jack Donovan, The Way of Men,
Yeah. And we'll
and you'll
talk
find it.
after the chat.
Yeah.
Just for anyone watching, we'll put all the links. I'll find the links there, and I'll put them down below. So check the description if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's very important if you want to get into shape, you need to find motivation to start lifting and then stick to it. So like we've been suggesting this whole chat, one of the most powerful ways that you're going to stick to it is if you build your crew and you guys all have the same goal of getting jacked, whatever it may be. You guys decide. Uh, so that's going to give you so many skills. Like for example, you're going to get a group together. You're going to learn how to lead a group, how to resolve conflicts, things like that. All these things are going to be extremely useful throughout your life. For example, your career, dealing with relationship issues in your life. Like this is all this important stuff that guys aren't going through anymore as much as they should. I think, yeah. So that's one suggestion.
Yeah, people are more isolated now. People work in their little cubicles. They don't have the same thing, that same social dynamic.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So another way, we've touched on this thing that there's a stigma against wanting to look good naked or whatever, or even bodybuild, and to a certain extent even strength training, because to the general public, strength training equals bodybuilder, and you're on steroids and you're like a meathead.
Yes, yeah, there is, yeah, definitely. That's what you see. Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of guys watching this, as soon as people find out how, first of all, just from one little vent is like when people say, "Oh, you're obsessed." If you really like care a lot about working out and training and looking good, you're obsessed. Oh, you're obsessed with this. So like it's a thing. Like whereas anyone that wants to become successful at anything in life, you have to get a little obsessed with it. Like obsession is absolutely healthy and good if you want to excel at something. But people have this idea that it's negative. So I hear you there, and I think it's still it blows my mind that people still have this meathead or you're self-absorbed sort of thing. You care about how you look. It's like instead of respecting all of the work that goes. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. Tell us why that isn't true. Like why it's not a thing about being a meathead and why it's healthy to have a focus on looking good and aesthetics.
Oh, it's very simple. Like if you care about the way you look, it's a reflection of your own self-worth and where you think you're worth. If you're gonna, I mean, see, just the fact that I said that, a lot of people will get offended, because what about the people that have medical issues, blah, 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 where in fact that's like 2% or less of the population. Everybody else has a generally healthy metabolism. You don't have any issues. You're just choosing not to make it a priority in your life. And choosing not to make it a priority in your life doesn't mean you have to dedicate your entire life to it. 4 to 6 hours of, let's say 3 to 5 hours of time in the gym, and some beyond, and even more important than that, learning how to count calories and macros. Do that for like 6 months, you will change your fucking life, I guarantee it. So that's not even getting obsessed with it. That's like basic that's like a basic hobby you can take on the side and dramatically change your life in 6 months.
Yeah, amen.
But to the point of the stigma, again, stigmas are always going to be there. It's part of people. It's how we're social creatures and social animals. One way we fight against each other is through creating stigmas against groups we don't like. That's always going to be here. Part of your job, I would say, in learning how to be a man is dealing with stigma and people not necessarily liking what you do. Yeah. My advice to guys is, who cares if there's a stigma? Get jacked and then reap the rewards, and then you can, you know, who cares what other people think? Exactly. It's only going to make you mentally stronger to acknowledge that there's a stigma and still not give a fuck about it. That's my advice to guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, instead of trying to figure it out and teach people to look at it differently.
Yeah, like, who cares? People are always going to have stigmas against people that are better than them at certain things.
Yeah.
I do it too, like things that I'm not good at. I'm like, oh, that guy, you know, he's better than me at squatting. He's built for squatting. Like, okay, to a very specific fitness example, but there's other qualities that is very normal. Just who cares? Do what you want to do, as the Hodge twins say.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Good. Let's see. Is there any others? Okay, so I think that gives people, like, that's very simple too.
Yeah.
Like, stick to it. Give it at least 6 months. Learn how to track your nutrition. You know, start training regularly. There's so many programs to choose from too. It's not like, oh, I don't know what to do. You can pick one.
I think.
And then your suggestion about, you know, part of the thing is to help build a crew, and it's not that hard. You find other like-minded people. If you know, I did it training out of my home. Like, going to a gym should be pretty easy. There's a bunch of people there. I did it training out of my garage, and I still got a bunch of people who work out. Yeah. It can happen, you know. Put the vibe out there, and you'll get your crew.
Exactly.
Any other suggestions around this as far as practical things people can do, or any other thoughts around how the strength training can lead to self-improvement for guys? We covered a lot.
You know, honestly, we covered a lot. I just want to reiterate that for the average guy, it's not a problem of knowledge anymore. Like, there's so much good information out on the internet, but at the same time, there's a shitload of crappy information. Mm-hmm. Regardless, most of it, even if a bad program, you stick to it for 6 months, you will get results. So guys need to learn to understand their motivation and their psychology. They need to learn how to build habits. And I write a little bit about that, but there's also other resources online, like a really good website to check out is the Fitocracy Knowledge Center. There's a lot of beginner-oriented articles there. Actually, don't even do that. If you go to my blog, there's a link in the menu at the top that says recommended, and there's a list of blogs that you should check out.
And your blog is?
alpha-aesthetics.com.
Okay.
You go there.
All right.
There's a bunch of recommended stuff. Check it out. There's lots of good resources there. Even on my blog, I talk about, most of my stuff is talking about the psychology and building habits, sustaining your motivation. And I have a lot to say about this in the future. So if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. If not, no worries.
Yeah, no, you were saying you have a lot. You were talking about some of the ideas or articles you have to write coming up, and there's an awesome topic. So definitely anyone that is watching this, check it out. I'm going to put the link down below to that as well, so go and subscribe to his blog and follow you on Facebook as well. I'm going to put the links to all of your social media sites that you're active on. You're pretty active on Facebook, so
yeah.
I'll put a link to that. Is there any other ways where, speaking of political incorrectness, definitely active on Facebook. If you're not offended, then definitely join his crew on there. Yeah. Any other ways for people to get in touch with you, or if they want to find out more, or if they wanted to hook up? I think the ideal would be if guys are driving on this and it makes sense to them and they wanted to connect with you directly, get a program or get started. How can they connect with you?
You can simply go to my blog, again, alpha-aesthetics.com. Mm-hmm. And there's a contact tab there in the menu at the top. Click on that, shoot me an email. Okay. Alternatively, my social media links are on there too, so add me on Facebook, Add me on Twitter. I'm on all that stuff. Send me a message. Tell me Josh Hewitt sent you, and I'll take care of you.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. It looks like we got some good recommended resources too, which I always like to include. Is there anything else coming up that you have, like articles or videos or any projects that you're working on that we can look out for?
Not much that I can talk about right now, but I'm looking to actually publish an article for you. We've talked about this, and people should check it out. I think this discussion was a good springboard of ideas to what I want to write down. So
Awesome.
definitely flesh out some of these ideas and give more practical tips to people. They can check that out, and you can let them know when I send it to you.
Cool. Yeah, if it's on the blog, you can embed this if you want. I'll send you the video link too.
I think that's a great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, good. I think we covered a lot. And people have, I'll put all the links, like I said, down there to check out. I'd love to have you back on the show again soon. And after you've got that article, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about.
I am down.
And I think when I was setting it up, Scott was asking me that he's the host or the guy that runs Straight to the Bar. He was like, "Oh, would this be is it just for guys? Is it okay if women watch?"
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it'd probably be healthy for women to check it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely we are speaking to men, and is that okay?
Yeah.
I think it's almost like there's just recognizing in the fitness industry there is so much out there for women right now. And yes, definitely they're marketing to guys, but like you said, it's the guy holding the weights with the six-pack saying, you know, eat your apples and you know,
like
all those it doesn't quite connect. So
no.
I think definitely for guys who want to look good, want to get laid, want to become a better man, definitely you're going to find the resources you're after on Alpha Athletics. Check it out and connect on Facebook as well. Awesome. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to being back. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good, man. We should, and also you're in Toronto, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we should definitely connect. I'm in town half the week, and I'm up here in my remote location here. Actually, before we sign off, let me see if I can do a tour of my gym. It's pretty awesome. I'll try and you let me know if you can see it. Okay, here we go. You ready?
I'm excited.
The Barbarian Stronghold. Here we go. All right. First of all, whoa. Okay, the glute ham.
Oh yeah.
And we got the power rack, bench.
Man, that is a
loads of weights, my dumbbells, more dumbbells, cardio station, and
stairs.
infrared sauna. Oh yeah.
Oh yes, that's what I'm coming for.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I got the garage with my tires and sleds and stuff. So pretty pumped.
No, I've seen the videos of your group getting together, so I'll have to come join one of these.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Cool. All right. Thanks again, Omar. Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good. Take it easy.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for checking it out. And we will be back next week with another gym chat. So until then, stay strong.